Hello everyone, I am Yesraj Soda, a student of Department of English, Maharaja Krishna Kumar Seji, Bhavnagar University. We are celebrating Teachers Day virtually, in which I am making this video. In this video, we are going to talk about a poem, The Target, written by Ivor Gurney. So let's begin. First of all, let's discuss about the poet Ivor Gurney. He was born on August 28, 1890, died on December 26, 1937. Place of birth, Gloucester, England. Occupation, he was a poet, composer. Country, as we know, United Kingdom. Contribution, he was known for war poetry and music influenced by the World War First. Uh, let's dwell into the poem, The Target. Let me recite the poem for one time. I sought him, and it had to be one of us. It was him or me. Couldn't be helped, and none can be blamed. Me for you would do the same. My mother, she can't sleep for fear, or what might be a happening here. To me, perhaps it might be the best to die and set her fears at rest. For worst is worst, and worst is done. Perhaps he was the only son. Yet God keeps still and does not say a word of guidance anyway. Well, if they get me, first I will find that boy and tell him all my mind, and see who fell the bullet worst, and ask his pardon if I does. All's a tangle. Here is my job. A man might have, or shout or sob. And God, he takes no sort of heed. This is the bloody mess indeed. This is a bloody mess indeed. So in the very first stanza, we got to know about I sought him. So we got about the background of the poem, that he sought someone, the poet sought someone. It is about the war poetry. And it had to be done. One of us, it was him or me. In the war, as we know, one has to kill someone or to be killed. So the situation of the war, he tried to describe the poet. Couldn't be helped, none can be blamed. Me for you would do the same. If I would be in the same side of you, or you are in the side of me, you would do the same. You are also there to kill me. So that the war, the basic background, we find that my mother, she can't sleep for fear or what might be happening here. Her mother is also fearful about what would be happening here in this war and how I was doing. So he tells about his personal feelings here. Perhaps it might be best to die and set her fears at rest. He says that it is like to be, he likes to be died. So her mother could be rest, that she does not live in fear that what his son might be doing. So he is careless about his life. He is hopeless. That he says that like if I am to be killed or I kill someone, what difference does it make? So that the basic concept we find that he does not care about his life also. Third stanza, for worst is worst and worst is done. Perhaps he was the only son. Now he is talking about the other person, other soldier whom he has killed. So he says that in the worst case scenario, that the other person is also can be the son of a mother, a single son of a parents. So in the worst scenario, that can also be happen. Yet God keeps still and does not say a word of guidance any. And if the God knows everything, still he hasn't said anything about that. He does not give any guidance to me or anyone else that why the war is going on. So he says like he also criticizing the God, the concept of God, that why he is not doing something, why so many people are being dead in the war. The same way we also find in the wars are going on in right now, Russia and Ukraine war are going on. In Palestine also people are suffering due to this condition of war. The nationalism and all the types of things we find in the present time also. Still the same concept we can apply, what God is doing. So that is there. He also argues about the God. Fourth stanza, well, if they get me, first I will find that boy and tell him all my mind. If they get me, he talks about the other army. If they get me and kill me, then in the heaven or in the hell, wherever I find that other person, other soldier whom I have killed, the poet says that I tell him all my mind what I am thinking about this condition, about the war, and see who felt the bullet burst, and ask his pardon if I durst. If I dare to ask him about the pardon that I have killed him, and I also ask that who felt the bullet burst, like each of us has killed, and who felt the bullet burst. So in the condition of the war, as we know, like so many people dies. So he asked that I also want to ask him that how he feels, and how he feels about this war condition, and that fifth stanza also tangle. Here is my job. A man might rave, or shout, or sob, and God he takes no sort of heed. This is the bloody mess indeed. In this tangle, all this war condition, all the quarrel things, it is my job to kill or to be killed. It is, as a soldier, it is my duty to protect my country. But what extent should I get there? Uh, where in the literature we always find the difference between the debate between the nationalism and the humanism. We find that like encouragement of the land, and we find that from the very previous years, very ancient time, we are doing that as a cause of nationalism or my land or mother country. We are doing that, but at what extent that should be done? At the love for country or love for humanism, what should be there? So in the literature, we always find that the concept, the difficulty, the conflict between these two, the nationalism and the humanism. So he also takes about this idea. He also thinks like that. So that is there. Let's move further. In the background of the poem, why he writes this poem, while Garvey writes this poem, what is the background of the poem? First of all, we find the World War first context. It is of the life of Ivor Gurney. It was lasted in 1914 to 1980, as we know, in the rage of the warfare and high casualties. Soldiers endured harsh conditions like mud, disease, and constant enemy fire, and so many people died during those two wars, as we know. Gandhi's military service, he was the military man, he was a soldier, enlisted in the 1915 with the Gloucestershire Regiment. He was in the regiment. Fought in the major battles like Somme, experiencing the first frontline combat and the loss of the comrades. That is why he was able to write down. That is why he is able to express himself, like what he has felt. Personal experiences, we also find Garvey's service led to the psychological trauma, including the symptoms of what was called cell shock. Now it is called the PTSD. It is about the post-traumatic stress disorder. So in that, the soldiers of the World War First or World War Second, that during that time, the term was cell shock term was very famous. Those soldiers gets very psychological issues. They are not they could not live their life easily. So the psychological trauma and the war trauma was there. So that was there. He also felt the same when he came back. The Garvey came back from the war. So he also felt that, and that is why he is including this war poet in his life and in his composition. He is also the music composer. So he's also writing this down in the poetry and in the music. His experiences of guilt and the brutality of war profoundly influenced his poetry, including the Target, that poem we are discussing. We also find the major difference between the writing of the poem before the World War and after the both World War was ended. Before that, the war poems or the soldiers and the war was romanticized a lot. We find that war is good and one should fight for the country and we should die for the country and the nation and my country. That type of themes we find in the nowadays we also find, but during that time it was like in the high peak. But if we look at the literature which is produced in World War First and World War Second, in the poems or any other literature, we find that there is harsh criticism of the war. the real reality of the war is displayed in the literature in the same similar kind. Ivor Gurney also tried to give the reality of the poem, reality of the war, how soldiers suffers and how they die in the war. So war is no good. So that type of the basic things we also get from this type of literature. So that is also there. The themes we can find in this poem is guilt and remorse. He is guilty that he has killed someone, some other soldier, and why he has done that. He is in the very psychological condition that why I have done that and why did that happen. So guilt is that if I met him, I will ask for forgiveness. There we find the dehumanization of the war. As we know, in the war, one has to kill someone. It's about all the killing or the all types of the things that is there. So we don't find any humanization, human concept or human culture there. So in the war we find the basic reality of killing. Moral ambiguity. He is also morally, ethically. The Ivor Gurney is not able to. In the poet is not able to get any background or what should be done and what is right and what is wrong. That type of thing he is not able to consider very carefully. Futility and absurdity of war. We know that after war we get nothing. So that type of basic things we can also find. Psychological trauma. He also suffers from this psychological trauma that we also that is reflected in his poetry that we can find. Uh, okay, that is from the poem. These are the references. You can find the further information from there. And thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you like the video. I also put this video on TED platform. You can also visit there. The link is in the description. I also made the 10-mark quiz related to this video. You can also appear in that. And at the end of the quiz, you can get the certificate of the score. So do appear in the quiz also. Both links are in the description. Thank you.